Hey guys, Josh Hankin here, creator of the DVRT system and the ultimate sandbag. Welcome back for July's metabolic stability. What I want to do is break down the concepts of carries and crawling. I know those are two popular exercises right now because of the great benefits they offer to our functional training. However, what we want to keep in mind is that any movement, any exercise can be broken down into more individual parts to help people better perform them and understand what they want to achieve with them. Carries and crawling are no different. And for a lot of people, especially let's say crawling, it can be too advanced and sometimes there's too big of a jump in progressions. As I mentioned in the write-up, going from on your knees to actually holding your entire body up can be a big jump for many. And also we want to take this concept of cross patterning, what we do when we walk and we crawl, to more standing and functional positions. So I want to open your mind to some different drills that you can do that both enhance your crawling and your carrying exercises. And the first one we're going to start with today is basically a split stance band row. So it looks outwardly very simple, but let's go over some of the things we're going to look at. So you're going to set up your band about chest height. And the nice thing is you can adjust that very easily, depending on someone's height, and the tension can start very moderate because while we are trying to build an upper body pulling motion, there's other attributes that we're going to use. So what we're going to do first is just take a simple split stance. Now, what you're going to do is opposite leg to the arm. Again, our cross pattern. As you saw in the write-up, we have different connect chains that play into these movement patterns. So I want my oblique kicking in with my hip. I want glute and lat to work together. And I'm going to challenge some lateral instability. So when I'm in this split stance and staying nice and tall, I want to put pressure through both feet. And what I can do is use the other hand to reciprocate the motion, pulling right into my body. And right now I have a very tense lat and I'm actually resisting the rotation of the band. Coming back in. So this is still a strengthening exercise. Even though I'm working on hip and core stability, I'm looking also how to tie in the obliques to my hips, which is a really key attribute that a lot of people don't understand, is that really we don't want to segment the body, we want to integrate it. Now you saw a very simple split stance, and what I can do is I can obviously change the band tension, but what I like to do with people to progress them is try to get them deeper in that split squat position, because the deeper we can get, the more intense the exercise becomes, the more frontal plane instability we work with, the more anti-rotational strength we have, and the more ground forces we learn to create with our body. So if I go in that same position but get in a deeper stance, now when I perform the drill, it's a little bit more challenging. Okay, and again, I can go a little bit lower, and I'm really working full body, and you can see it's a nice way for people that can't hold their bodies up in crawling patterns or need lower leg stability and hip mobility in their walking patterns to build that up gradually. A very simple tool that can yield very high benefits for your clients. Now for the next drill here, what I'm going to use is another lunge variation, but with a press. Now you're going to see that obviously we're using a lot of split stance and lunge variations because they correlate perfectly to crawling and carrying. If you can't lunge well, then we obviously know that lower leg and hip stability is an issue. We know that mobility could be potentially an issue, and we also know that strength can be an issue. But more importantly, we also understand that the way the core works with the hip can be problematic. So again, we can use lunging as a great way to qualify people for these simple activities. And really, I think lunging is one of those missed patterns to really fully develop and explore. One of the challenges comes in how to do the lunge correctly. So number one, we want to understand direction. So going backwards is always going to be an easier means of teaching the lunge. Our center of mass stays over our base support instead of decelerating most of my body weight as I lunge forward. We started that with the split stance row where we just learned basically that positioning, and we worked in a more static position in that lunge. Here we're going to work a little bit more dynamically, and we're going to work the other phase, which is understanding that both feet are active in a lunge. That even though most of us think of it as a unilateral exercise, both feet are very important to the movement pattern. So you want to grab on the ground with your front foot and your back foot at the same time. Now what's scary to a lot of people is that end position. What is that going to feel like? How are they going to support themselves? So we're going to use what we use in DVRT a lot, which is an up-down. It's a great way to teach people stability, mobility, and strength while teaching them that end phase and how to decelerate their body weight. So what we're going to do is get the ultimate sandbag, and I recommend a power ultimate sandbag for this drill, up to our shoulder. Now, going again with our cross patterns, I'm going to have the left side lunge down, come down slowly. So I see how I decelerate nice and slowly. I place the other leg back. I'm going to perform a very slow arc press to the opposing side. Now I want the opposite leg to step, press through both feet, come back up. So I'm going to do this again. So in the arc press, what you saw is again frontal plane strength. It's a push to a pull. The speed I moved at is about the speed you want to do this at. So staying up nice and tall, back leg at the side of the weight goes down, wrap my leg around. My hips are fully extended. I have good ground contact. I'm not leaning. I'm pushing, pulling down the other side. Other way comes up, drive myself up. We generally will do this for about 5 to 6 reps a side, or you can do it for time. And when you do it for time, you don't want to rush through it, because the beauty of this drill is the time under tension. Very similar to carries and crawling, that time under tension is really what allows us to build a lot of that functional strength. It's a wonderful drill that teaches the cross patterning, builds and layers upon that strength and stability, and teaches us frontal plane strength and that pushing and pulling action that we use a lot in the crawling patterns as well. Alright, this next series is really going to make you reevaluate your side planks. And the reason we're doing the side plank is because especially the carries, but also crawling, has a large frontal plane component. And so, when you're doing a single arm farmer's carry, or even just a farmer's carry in general, what most people lack is the frontal plane stability. And then when we reevaluate them on a side plank, they can barely do a side plank well, yet we're asking them to do a very complex pattern in carrying. So I'm going to teach you basically some fundamental concepts in the side plank that you can carry over into some of your other drills. And what you're going to find is that maybe you need to clear up some of this frontal plane stability, and that will give you better success in your crawling and carries. We're going to start very simple, and then I'm going to add a very specific way to apply load, not necessarily to add a challenge and make things harder, but integrate more of your body into the natural chain. So one thing we would definitely want to do is set people naturally where their knees are bent at first, because a lot of people start with legs extended and they miss a lot of the key concepts we're going to do, especially here in a moment. And I'm going to grab the ground and I'm going to create a little position here so my shoulder's over my elbow. So when I bridge up, my shoulder's going to be packed. I'm not going to have it out from my body. Grabbing the ground is also going to teach me to apply force in the ground. Same thing with my knees and my feet. So what I want to do really here is when I come up, I just don't want to bridge up. I want to really power my hips forward. So when I'm at the top position, I look like I just came out of basically a squat or a hinge. So I come back, a nice powerful movement, hips are fully extended, glutes are tight, I'm grabbing the ground, I'm in a nice straight line. From this position, what we want to do is teach people how to integrate the opposing side as well. It gets a stronger chain reaction. It's sort of what the law of irradiation, basically, for those of you that have done kettlebells, if you squeeze harder in the opposing hand while you press a kettlebell up, it makes it easier. Same thing here. So we can bring our ultimate sandbag in, and you want generally a very lightweight. I'm going to show this a little bit more challenging. We start with just a simple iso pull. So as I again bridge up, I'm just going to take tension out of the handle, applying force in the ground, and this all of a sudden gets far more activity in my glutes and my core. So right off the bat, super challenging drill. In a moment, I'm going to show you how to layer progression to that with a little bit more dynamic motion. So this is a drill where a little bit of weight goes a long way. So our core ultimate sandbag is perfect here. And the reason I'm using the ultimate sandbag here is because the trajectory that my arm is going to take is a little bit unusual. And the sag, or the weight away from the handle, actually amplifies the motion I'm going to perform. So I'm going to set up just like I did before. So when I fully extend, I'm now going to pull the arm up and back. So again, we have that lat glute tight connection, we have the obliques and hip, and we have that little frontal plane stability, and back down. So it's not the arm up. I'm coming in an arcing motion. So again, bridge up, arcing in, slowly back down, bringing the hips back down. Alright, so the last drill is basically built upon what we just went over. So if you find the following too difficult, obviously go back to some of those other drills. We're going to set up very similar to what we did in the side plank. However, I'm going to have one leg back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I actually sort of rotate my body first so that I'm in this nice side plank type position. And as Dr. Craig Liebenson shows, actually sort of pointing this foot up that helps you lock into that bottom leg, which would be really helpful. Because I'm going to push I'm grabbing my hand, drive through my lat, drive through my hip, and basically what I'm going to do is elevate myself up, pull back and in, and then slowly drive this hip forward, back down. So what's happening is first I'm extending my hips, so I'm in that nice straight line position. I row the weight up, and then I want to move the leg forward. So basically it's like I have a split stance type of side plank. I'll do it one more time. Make sure you're on your side. The tendency is going to want to roll back. You want nice alignment here. You're going to be on your hip, shoulder packed. Okay, got some tension already. Drive through, elevate, and slowly kick. A wonderful way to really start getting into making that side plank more relatable to functional activities such as your carries and crawls. When we get in that split stance, we start to tap into some of those gait patterns, those cross patterns that we would see when we're walking and doing more functional type of activities. Alright guys, what we're going to look at is what we call sprinter stance swing, and that refers to a heel-toe relationship in the swing stance. Now what's great about this is in swing we get horizontal and vertical forces, very similar to what we would do in crawling and carries. Now what we can do is in a different type of position, and we can get in the sprinter stance, which is going to also challenge that cross pattern. So we're going to basically have a three-dimensional swing, a resisting rotation and lateral flexion while trying to produce force in the sagittal plane. Now a couple key points here. We're just getting a heel-toe relationship, just a small difference in your stance, which is going to have a profound impact upon what you feel in your stability. The other thing is I'm going to go to the hand of the backside leg. So that hand, I'm going to have an asymmetrical load position, asymmetrical body position. So a lot going on for me just moving my foot a couple inches back. Now, when we do this, I want to keep my back heel off the ground the entire time by pushing through the ball of foot. So I'm going to have like a 60-40 relationship here. It's very going to be a similar motion as gait. Okay, so as I swing the belt forward, the opposing arm is coming forward. But I want to keep a packed shoulder, I don't want to release that shoulder, and I don't want to rotate my torso. So I'm going to start just like I would in my normal kettlebell swing. And everything in the mechanics of the swing are the same. I have a vertical shin, I'm grabbing the ground, and my shoulder is staying packed. You want to make it look like you have a one or two arm swing, even though I'm having to resist rotational forces. Hopefully you can see how this would relate to the gait or crawling that I would do in everyday life. It's a really phenomenal drill. It's a way to progress your kettlebell swing beyond just doing more reps or more load.